That will sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Tune in 91.3 FM WBNY Mondays 6 p.m. for Mental Health Versus, where Carl Shallahorn mashes up music and mental health in a way you've never heard before. Carl dives into topics such as trauma, depression, and anxiety with compelling guests and captivating music. Mental Health Versus, a show both entertaining and informative. Check out Mental Health Versus Mondays at 6 p.m. on 91.3 FM WBNY. WBNY Buffalo.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of 91.3 FM WBNY, the United Students Government at Buffalo State, or Buffalo State itself. Due to the opinionated nature of these programs, listener discretion is highly advised. If you have any questions or comments about today's program, you can give us a call at 716-878-5104.
And we're getting reaction directly from Trump himself.
This is from Donald Trump, former president. It says, "This is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. From the time I came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower and even before I was sworn in as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats and the enemy of hardworking men and women of this country have been engaged in a witch hunt to destroy the Make America Great Again movement. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump, but now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference."
Oh, it's interesting. This is L. Nathan Hare. Let me get to it in a moment. This is L. Nathan Hare. Welcome you to our broadcast here at Living for the People, focused on providing insight into events shaping our national and regional world and the facts behind those events and policies that are shaping our world for today and for tomorrow. Join us weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. following Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! Program. And of course, you know our program is live, so you can call in, you can join our discussion. This is a program that I really hope that you will. Our number here again is 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104. We're normally here with Norma Carter, who's our in-studio audience of one, but he's still scrambling around getting some things together. And I guess he won't be with us until Monday. But we do have Willie H., who is our citizen of the 21st century, who knows how to do all of this electronic stuff and IT stuff that makes it possible for us to live stream this program and bring it to you a video in a video format as well as in an audio format. Welcome, Willie, to the program.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan Hare. Of course, you know you guys can type into WBNY to Facebook, or you can call in live, 716-878-5104. That's 716-878-5104.
Also, a shout out to James Brown, our producer. He's the one who gave you that soundbite. We looking forward to seeing him back at the program. But thank you so much for continuing to do the work you do to support what we're doing here at Living for the People. One of the things that I hope, because I took a little long in my introduction, but I hope that you can recall from the soundbite that James provided for you something that was in and something that wasn't in the soundbite. The soundbite that he gave you is typical of the way that the story about this indictment has been covered. When you hear the news reports, you hear the quotes that James has quoted to has shared with you. What do you not hear, and what do you hear? You heard this quote that probably was 30 seconds, 40 seconds worth of script that all said Donald Trump's framing of the indictment. So the indictment is a fact that has occurred, but all of the characterization of what the indictment was about and what the basis of the indictment is, and what is going to happen in the future, all of that characterization you got from what Donald Trump said. Did you hear anything in the soundbite that James Braun gave you that suggested anything that the Democrats said? That suggested anything that maybe there was another way to look at this indictment? So Trump makes these statements that the Democrats have lied, since he was on the escalator, even before he was on, his words, before he was on the escalator, that they've lied, that they've cheated, that they've concealed, that they have deliberately created a witch hunt to find things to attack Donald Trump on, to prevent the Make America Great Again movement from taking hold in this country. That's what he says. And he gives you all of this script about all of the terrible things that have been done to him. None of what you heard told you the other side of the story. The other side of the story is, regardless of whether you thought it was a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know why you would think it was a good thing that Donald Trump would have to be paying $130,000 to a porn star to suppress a story, if his assertion is that he did this because he didn't want Melania, his wife, to find out that he had been involved or was being accused of being involved with this porn star. I want you to do just a little bit of rational thinking. I don't want you to do a lot of rational thinking, because I don't want your brain to blow up in your head and for your skull to pop off. I want you to do a little bit of rational thinking. If the assertion is that Donald Trump paid this money to this porn star who he says he did not sleep with, that was a lie being said by Stormy Daniels or Stephanie Clifford, whatever name you call her by, that was a lie, then what he's saying is he paid $130,000 to suppress the possibility that Melania might believe the lie being told, that he claims is being told by Stormy Daniels. Well, if that's true, then anybody could walk up to Donald Trump and say, well, I say that you did something wrong with me. I say that you slept with me. And based on somebody just making the accusation, they could pump money out of Donald Trump on the basis of an accusation that wasn't true. That doesn't make any sense. If the only reason why Donald Trump would have entertained paying Stormy Daniels any money at all is because he knew he had done something with Stormy Daniels. Right. Otherwise, he'd have people lined up around the block, from the length of the country. They'd be coming up from Guatemala, to accuse Donald Trump and look to get some money, out of Donald Trump's hand. So the rationale that Donald Trump is giving you doesn't make any sense. But you haven't heard the media speak about that. They're so busy promoting the sensational stuff that Donald Trump says and the sensation and buzz that causes amongst the so-called MAGA population in this country, that they it's not that they avoid, they're just so busy giving the sensational spin that they don't get around to telling you the other side of the story. Right. But the other side of the story is the compelling part of the story. It's the most important part of the story. Willie and I were talking about this on the way down. I try to help us to understand this in context. The issue of whether or not he paid the money to Stormy Daniels to cover up the possible liaison between him and her, that may not be illegal. It's sordid, but that's not necessarily illegal. I don't know what statute that would have broken. But here's what statute was broken. Donald Trump said that the $130,000 that he paid to Michael Cohen, which he admits he pays to Michael Cohen, that he can't say he didn't pay to Michael Cohen because he wrote checks to Michael Cohen, something like 8 to 14 checks. He wrote to Michael Cohen of something like 12 or 15 or 30,000 or 20,000 each check, or in varying amounts in that range, that he wrote these checks and he signed the checks that he wrote. So he can't say that he didn't send this money to Michael Cohen. And he's already said on the record that he gave the money to Michael Cohen to reimburse him for money that Michael Cohen paid to Stormy Daniels. So if he did that, how was that recorded? How do we know that that took place? Well, Donald Trump recorded it in his tax records, his business records, as a business expense. He wrote it down as a legal expense that he incurred for legal services provided to him by Michael Cohen. But there's no legal services that are documented that Michael Cohen provided to Donald Trump, other than the fact that he paid this money, $130,000, to Stormy Daniels, and Donald Trump reimbursed him for that money. There's no service. So if there was no service provided, it couldn't be a business expense. It was a personal expense. And if it was a personal expense, then it should not have been deducted from his taxable income. Putting it down as a business expense means that in that year, whatever that was, 2015 or 2016, whatever tax year that took place in, it means that Donald Trump took credited himself with a business expense of $130,000 for legal fees that he never actually incurred. He didn't have any legal services that he bought with that money. That was a personal expense, not a business expense. So the $130,000 that he deducted from his taxable income, he didn't pay any taxes on that $130,000. Now, you all may groan and say, well, Donald Trump doesn't pay any taxes anyway. Well, it's not legal for you to not pay taxes. You owe taxes. See, you can't cover up or ignore a crime because a person commits a whole lot of crimes. So since he commits like 40 or 50 crimes a year, you're not going to, indict the person for just one of the crimes. That doesn't make any sense. You were going to indict Al Capone committed 40 crimes a day. They got him for tax evasion. It wasn't because that's all they really wanted to get him on, but Al Capone had so many layers of people between him and the actual crimes that he committed that they had a difficult time being able to prosecute him. But they were able to get him on tax evasion, something similar to what Trump is up on right now. Him deducting $130,000 from his business expenses as legal expenses paid for services provided by Michael Cohen. It turns out that that's not true. He did not incur those legal expenses. Therefore, he avoided taxation on $130,000 worth of income. That is a crime. Now, it may not be the same crime as Bella Hare, spying, on behalf of Germany. It may not be that kind of a crime, but it's certainly a crime. And when is a crime supposed to be prosecuted? When it fits a political scheme on the part of the Make America Great Again movement? Is that the only time that something can be prosecuted? That doesn't make any sense. So I wanted to get to that today. That was not what I was going to talk about today. But this story broke, at least when I saw it, was around 4:15 yesterday. And so we had to put something in the story. Let me just give you a little bit of what the what the media were saying about this story. It talks about Trump likely being charged with a violation of New York Penal Code 175.10, which is falsifying business records in the first degree. Now, it's in the first degree, making it sound more serious. It is serious. I mean, it was a deliberate falsification of records, or falsification of an expense. It's quite serious, even if the charge itself doesn't reach the heights that some people would expect from a former president. This is according to NPR's Adrian Florido on All Things Considered. Former lawyer for Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, negotiated a deal with porn star Stormy Daniels, paying her, $130,000 in exchange for keeping quiet about the alleged affair. Cohen transferred that money to Daniels less than 2 weeks before the election, and then after Trump won, Trump reimbursed Cohen, including with his own personal checks. Trump has denied having had an affair with Daniels in the first place, even though he has admitted reimbursing Cohen for the money paid to her. You had a thought?
You have a caller.
Let me get that in just a second. Okay. But I just wanted you to understand that that's what the assertion is. Now, the way they're framing it is, at least the way that the Republicans are framing it, is that this was a violation, or it's accused to be a violation of campaign finance law, that this money was actually being used, how shall I say it, to help Donald Trump avoid the stigma of being accused by Stormy Daniels in public of having an affair, with her. That's what they're saying. So this was treated as a campaign expense. But that's not what's written in the record. Trump's business records do not write down the payments to Michael Cohen as a campaign donation, giving to the Donald Trump Political Action Committee or his election committee. It's written down as legal expenses. If they were legal expenses, they were charged to Donald Trump personally. These were his legal expenses for legal services that he purchased, and therefore they were legitimately deducted from his taxable income. That's really what the issue is. Let me grab the caller real quick. Hi, caller, are you there?
Very good. Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. I hope I'm explaining this correctly.
I just wanted to very quickly compliment you on the choice of Al Capone as an analogy. I think it's perfect, and I would also mix in P.T. Barnum because he just absolutely takes advantage of any suckers there are in the world.
Or Huey Long. Huey Long.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Very good. Well, thanks for the analogy. You have a good day.
All right, thank you. That's really where we're at, in this thing. So I'm hoping that people are beginning to understand there is a distortion in how information is being given to us as a community. I realize that the sensational things that are being said about this indictment are things that are being said by Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and their fan base. I get that. But you have a responsibility in the media to give balanced reporting. Balanced reporting isn't just repeating something that somebody else said. Balanced reporting is including your own assessment of what makes sense out of what people are saying. Is what people are saying making sense? What Donald Trump is asserting, that the Democrats have lied, stealed, concealed, done everything possible to harm him and his so-called MAGA movement and so on, and that's what's been going on. This was just a witch hunt, and that listen to what he says. He actually says that in New York, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney in Manhattan, he's asserting that he's had dozens, if not hundreds, of cases that were similar to what's being charged to him, where the case was dropped down to being a misdemeanor or even less, a civil violation, and so on. So why is he prosecuting me, as if this is, the crime of the century? The reality is Donald Trump has been engaged in so much sordid behavior, so much over the red line, if you will, kind of behavior. They have a whole menu of things that Donald Trump is credibly charged with. And this is just the first shoe that dropped. There are other shoes that are going to drop on this thing. I mean, you've seen there are federal charges that Trump is facing. What about the theft, if you will, of presidential records that is still going on? Donald Trump is still holding on to records that belong to the federal government, to the public. He's still holding on, still refusing to let those records go. I mean, we have all kinds of these kinds of actions being done by Donald Trump. So it's important that people understand contextually what is going on here. Donald Trump is not being harangued by a Democratic-controlled media. If anything, the media has bent over backwards to give Donald Trump spin on everything, to the detriment of explaining to people what the other side of the issue is, how that issue should be understood. So, I just wanted to also mention that our other cousin, I was going to blame him on Willie, but he didn't want to accept blame. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, says that he's going to publicly aid and abet Donald Trump's flight from the law by refusing to assist or enable the extradition of Donald Trump from Florida to New York so that he could be arraigned on the indictment that has been brought down against him. Ron DeSantis said that, he, as far as he's concerned, it's George Soros orchestrated circus, and he doesn't want to be involved with it. Now, what does George Soros have? This is a 90-plus-year-old man. What does George Soros have to do with this at all? But this is the con game that Kevin McCarthy and the Republican leadership, this is the con game that they run on people, because people don't really know who George Soros is. They don't understand this is a very, very, very old man. And if he's a supporter of liberal causes, he wants to see an end to global warming. He wants to see a conversion of the energy system in this country to renewable energy from fossil fuels and those kinds of things. If that's what he's about, then that's what he's about. There's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing sordid about that. If you're a person who believes in the same kind of things that George Soros believes in, then more than likely, if you ask him for some support for your campaign, he'll bend over, to some extent to give you some of that support. So that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about some seditious, kind of a thing, but that's the spin that's being run, and that gets lifted up in the press. The press talks about the George Soros thing, but doesn't tell you that George Soros is basically a liberal benefactor who supports people that he thinks are supportive of the kinds of things he thinks ought to get done. Inclusion, diversity, equity, renewable energy, and those kinds of things are what he is for. So if you're a person that is for those things, you're going to get support from somebody like George Soros or other people like George Soros. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what should be talked about, instead of just constantly repeating that Alvin Bragg is a supported or is owned by George Soros. If you want to talk about people owning people, Republicans are owning, billionaires are owning people across the country, the political spectrum, rather. So I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to grab a call real quick. I'm going to talk a little bit today about gun violence. But let me grab. That's a caller. Hang on. Let me grab that caller real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there? Hello, caller. Are you there? Did I lose the caller?
I guess so. I guess we'll have him call back.
Okay.
Call back, James.
That was James? Yeah, he's the one who introduced this subject, so I thought he'd be the first one on the call. All right. We're going to grab James in just a second here. Yep. Okay, let me get him now. Hi, James, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, great. I thought you had gotten away from me. We introduced the subject, for you.
I'm sorry about that. But here's my question. Why are they doing it on this particular charge and not the Fulton County telephone call, which to me seems so much more serious, asking for a president asking for 11,000 more votes?
But remember, the Fulton County call happened in Georgia. So
Okay.
that's the district attorney in that jurisdiction, Fulton County in Georgia.
Right.
That's a different, case altogether. It's underway.
Right.
We don't know where it's going to go, but it looks like an indictment is going to fall sometime fairly soon on that one too. Fannie Willis said that an indictment was imminent, but they're not connected with each other. In other words,
Right.
What's going on in Manhattan is taking its own life, and it's on its own pace. It has nothing to do with what's taking place in Georgia or in Washington.
It just seems to me that Fulton County is so much more serious for an acting president to be looking on tape for 11,000 more votes. And
Right.
don't get me wrong, but it's Stormy Daniels. It's pretty incredulous, but I'm thinking that Fulton County is much more serious and frankly, much more,
I agree. It's much more compelling.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It is as rank as it can possibly be. From my point of view, a year and a half ago, whenever this tape first surfaced of Donald Trump saying, I just need 11,781 votes, just one more than he got. I just need,
right.
Well, when he said that was a crime in and of itself. That was the attempt to subvert the election in Georgia. That was a clear and still is a clear, blatant attempt to overturn or to change the outcome of an election in Georgia.
Right.
That should have been the deal, but it wasn't. I don't know why. I don't know why these people take so long to do this stuff. But in the Manhattan case in New York, they had a lot of stuff that they could have talked or charged Donald Trump with, and we don't know what's in the indictment. There may be 20 or 30 charges in this indictment. We haven't seen the indictment yet, so there may be a lot more to it than what we know. But the parts that we do know for certain, and I'm just troubled by the fact that they don't say it this way. They keep making it sound like this is about the payment that was made to Stormy Daniels. That is not illegal. I just need for people to understand that. You could give me money to keep my mouth shut about something that I say I know about you. That's not illegal. But if you take the money that you paid me and you deduct it from your taxable income and say it was a business expense, it was a communications expense, it was a fee that you paid, to Nate Hare, that's not true, then you've committed a crime because you are lowering your taxable income and therefore avoiding paying taxes on that money that you deducted from your taxable income. If that's not a crime, people would be doing this all day, every day in the country. I'd be, I walked by that girl, that cost me $15. Deduct that from, my taxable income and so on, right? So it is a very serious offense that Donald Trump is being accused of in New York. So there's lots of layers to this thing.
Right.
I just, to me, this is the problem here is you inherited a Department of Justice that was populated by Donald Trump. When he had, what's his name? Jeffries, not Jeffries. What's his name? It was the first Attorney General under Donald Trump. The guy the senator that he hired to become his Attorney General. I don't know why I keep calling him Jeffries, but whatever the case, ever since that occurred, you've had the same situation going on. You've had the Justice Department, being used as a tool of Donald Trump to carry out his political agenda, rather than doing the work of being a Justice Department, being the top law enforcement entity in the country.
Were you talking about William Barr or no?
No, before William Barr.
Or Barr, okay.
it'll come to my head. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
So I took so long getting to this. We're at the end of the first half hour of the program, so I got to take a commercial break.
Okay, can I just say
Sure.
that there were other presidents who were I hate to put it this way, who were unfaithful to their wives.
Sure.
But I cannot think of another president who was literally on tape soliciting votes for their reelection, and that's why I'm citing Fulton County as being far more serious.
Committing a crime in public.
I mean, it's
right.
It's almost like crimes and misdemeanors against the government for trying to hold an election and soliciting votes. To me, that's far more. Don't get me wrong. I get that Stormy Daniels, it's a crime, but to me, soliciting votes so close to the election ending, that's far more serious.
Well, we have to hope that Fannie Willis is going to be able to bring that action forward. Either she's going to bring the charges or she's going to tell us why she's not going to bring the charges. But we should hear something from her relatively soon. And then there are federal charges, that are also underway, with Donald Trump. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on around him. Donald Trump is going to keep, doing the ostrich feather things, saying that, fanning his flame, saying that I'm a victim. They've been trying to get me, for all this time. I'm you. They're not really trying to get me. They're trying to get you. He's going to keep saying that stuff. And the media is going to keep feeding it because that's where the what's the word? The likes are, the views are. The media is based on advertising, and advertising is based on how many people are paying attention to your program. So they keep talking the stuff that people are responding to, and that's why you keep them hear them giving such slanted framing of the news. So we just have to put up with that and continue to stay strong.
Thanks for your time, Mr. Hare.
All right, talk to you soon.
Be well.
Be well. You be well as well. Let's take a quick break. We'll talk to you on the other side of the break here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. See you all then.
FM WBNY is proud to present Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman.
Welcome to Democracy Now!
Award-winning investigative journalism.
Is the NRA imploding?
Providing relevant analysis that makes you think.
Secret State Department documents, including evidence of U.S. war crimes.
Fact-finding reports you will not hear elsewhere. Democracy Now! Airs Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo.
Tune in 91.3 FM WBNY Mondays 6 p.m. for Mental Health Versus, where Carl Shallahorn mashes up music and mental health in a way you've never heard before. Carl dives into topics such as trauma, depression, and anxiety with compelling guests and captivating music. Mental Health Versus, a show both entertaining and informative. Check out Mental Health Versus Mondays at 6 p.m. on 91.3 FM WBNY.
We're here with Willie H. We sort of bled over our intro to the program, but we're here with Willie H., who does the live streaming of the program. Welcome again back to the program, Willie.
Welcome, everybody, to Living for the People with L. Nathan.
I take it you have a caller hanging on there? Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller, are you there? Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Great, thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Hare and Willie.
Good morning.
I imagine you might want to talk about another subject other than indictment because there's so much happening in the world. I just want to say this. The So here's my theory. Barron Trump was born, I believe, on March 20th, 2006. And this alleged affair took place on, I don't know, I think it was September after that golf outing, September 2006 into 2007. So, you know, I mean, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. His wife just had a baby. Her uterus wasn't small and contracted. And, you know, I mean, you know, Trump has said, like, I raped that woman because she's not my type. And, you know, hey, a man's got to do. So obviously I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. But, you know.
Well, also, it's not rape if she accepted money for it.
Well, yeah, right.
I think that's what he's saying. I don't think he's saying he never slept with her. He said he didn't rape her.
I believe he's actually denied even sleeping with her.
Well, he probably did, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe she raped him. Maybe that will come out. But, you know, Stormy, it was a bad storm coming. I don't know. You know, I mean, he was just an innocent supporting his wife. But, you know, I heard an earlier caller say that, you know, it's unfortunate that the Georgia indictment, if there is going to be an indictment, didn't come first because I think I read this morning that a Quinnipiac poll shows that 95% of Republicans, he's the top poll, support him running again for re-election, and something like 64% of the country feels that this is not a fair indictment. That's, I find, very scary. And but that 57% think that if there are charges against him, he shouldn't be running. So even though, you know, if he's convicted or if he still has charges against him at the time of the next presidential election, that cannot stop him from running for president. And you know, there's a couple ways if he were to be reelected, it could play out that they could invoke the 25th Amendment, saying, you know, it's just very scary to me that Fox News is calling Alvin Bragg's witch hunt.
Right.
On their, you know, and all that other stuff.
But, you know, it's not just Fox News. When I listen to MSNBC, they repeat all of the stuff that the Republicans are saying without giving you the other side of the story. They just repeat everything that's being said. And that's what's really unfortunate, you know, about this, you know.
Yeah, like where are their talking points, you know?
See, that's why the public has sort of been herded into remember we talked about before that you become what you hear? If all you keep hearing is George Soros, you know, Democrats, you know, lying, witch hunt, you know, and you keep hearing that's what Donald Trump says, and crowds of people, you know, in front of Donald Trump when he's saying it, then that's the way you contextualize the information, you know, and it to me, it's irresponsible of the media not to say, they should be saying, Donald Trump is making this claim. Here's what's true. This is what Donald Trump is saying is not true. Nobody owns, you know, Alvin Bragg. Donald Trump is not being, you know, railroaded. Donald Trump did the things that are being said are things that Donald Trump has admitted himself to have done. He's just characterizing it as legal, and Alvin Bragg is characterizing it as illegal. That's why you have trials. That's what courts are for, to figure out what was and what was not legal. And it should be characterized that way.
Yeah. I mean, the news media, for the most part, NPR, BBC, they all say that his claims are false.
Right.
They all say that his claims that the election, that he won the election, they always say straight up. And Fox News may not say it. What is it, ONR or OAN? You know, they may not say it, OAN or whatever it is. But you know, NPR.
Yeah, One America News or something like that.
Some nonsense like that. But you know, so I agree with you. You know, it's like you got to get your talking points out, and they better do it quick. And it is what it is. I know the White House is maintaining dead silence so far when I read the papers.
I hope that Fani Willis gets her indictment on the table. I know there's some reason why they have been hesitant to put this on the table, but this needs to be done right away. I mean, when you first heard this, when you heard Donald Trump on tape saying to Raffensperger, I just need, I think it was 17,000 or 11,801 votes. Just one more than they got. That's all I need. Yeah. And then he talked to somebody else in, I believe it was in Wisconsin, He was talking to a state elected official in Wisconsin, and he says to him, well, I just need whatever the number of votes was.
Yeah.
So you can't get me these votes. I just need these votes. All I'm asking for, just give me these votes. I mean, how illegal can something possibly be?
Right. I think it shows how long it takes to pull a case together, because this case in Manhattan, it was initiated, I believe, in maybe 2017, right after the election.
Right.
It takes that long. And when did the Georgia happen? In 2020? When he made those calls?
Exactly.
2020. So that's why, but if it's going to take that long for the Georgia indictment or whatever, it's the next election will be over and done with. So it is.
Well, that's what Donald Trump counts on. I'll just drag these things out, drag them out, and eventually you all are going to get busy on other stuff, and you're just going to say, "Oh, it's not worth it now." He's already had his run at being president.
Yeah, well, all this has helped so far is his financing. I mean, his emails went out, and I think one of his sons compared this to Mao Zedong and Pol Pot, and it was that's horrible.
His son is Pol Pot. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. I shouldn't say that.
It's the bottom of the pot. Anyway, but thank you very much, and you guys, just keep on shining. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much. So let me just tell you all a little bit about this gun violence stuff, just so you understand. I mean, we were really framing this around the issue that took place in February the 27th, I think it was, that Tennessee mass murder took place. The CDC in 2021, their record for 2021 says that there were 23,198 people in the age range of 1 to 19 years old, just in that age range, who were killed due to gun violence. And of those, 4,733 of them was the number one cause of death. Firearm deaths were the number one cause of death. So there were 23,198 people who died in 2021 who were in the age range of 1 to 19 in the year 2021. Of those 23,198 people, 4,733 of them died due to gun violence. And in fact, gun violence has surpassed car accidents as the leading cause of death for people in the age range of 1 to 19 years old. The estimated number of firearm deaths, excluding suicides, was 20,138. If you assume that another 21,000 gun deaths occurred by suicide, the 2022 estimate would be somewhere around 41,000, close to 42,000 deaths in this country for people in that age range of 1 to 19. And we're on pace for killing, I'm talking about just people ages 1 to 19, we're on pace for killing 40,000 Americans by gun violence in 2023. More than 9,800 people killed in gun violence so far in 2023. More than half of all gun violence deaths this year were deaths by suicide. So it's not just that we have people. In fact, it's more likely by a multiple of 2 that a person who gets killed in that age range 1 to 19 by gun violence, it's more likely that that person is going to be killed by suicide as opposed to that person being killed as a result of somebody committing a robbery or some other form of homicide. More than 132 mass shootings in the United States have already taken place through March 27th of this year, which is how far I had gone in this report. That includes something in the area of 114 deaths per day due to gun violence in this country. The majority of these deaths have occurred in Texas, California, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Illinois, and Louisiana. There have been at least 13 school shootings in schools that were serving kids in K through 12 so far this year, including the recent incident in Nashville Tennessee. The FBI statistics show that in 2020, handguns were used in most gun homicides. Of those 23,000 homicides we were talking about took place, as a result of gun violence. 8,029 of them were a handgun was the weapon of choice. I also want you to know that people using their fists, their hands, their feet, their knees, their bodies, in other words, hand-to-hand combat, 4,000 of the murders that took place in this country in 2022 were murders that took place where people didn't use a gun. They used their hands. I think we have to register people's hands in this country as well as registering guns. We had over 4,000 people die in homicides in which the means by which the homicide took place did not involve a gun. They involved people using their hands.
Wow.
I just found that stunning.
Wow.
So I went to an article written by Megan Ranney, Proven Ways to Reduce Gun Violence. This was in Time Magazine last year. She's a PhD, she's a medical doctor and also a master's in public health and a professor of emergency medicine and the associate dean of the School of Public Health at Brown University. She cites the horror of a white supremacist shooting grocery shoppers in Buffalo, the cold-blooded murder of 19 children and 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas, a series of mass shootings in malls and on streets and at graduation parties that left dozens of people injured or dead, and countless largely unreported firearm suicides as prima facie evidence of the need for reforms to reduce the increasing crisis in gun deaths. Now, I repeat that because we are always hearing these spins about why we have to have guns. We need the guns to protect ourselves. I've said this many times. Let me just repeat it again. And you tell me if my logic is incorrect. Most people who are victims of assault, a robbery, or gun violence don't have their gun on their person at the point that this occurs.
It's not ready.
When Breonna Taylor was murdered in her apartment, she was in bed. When these police broke into her apartment, she was in bed. Now, the person who had a gun and had the gun in the bed and used the gun to try to fend off the people, that he thought were, whatever the word is when they break into your house now, home invasion. When he felt a home invasion was underway, he got shot.
Mm.
And, they wanted to put him in jail, for defending himself from a home invasion. My point is that most of the time when a person is victimized by a assault, intimidated, with a weapon, you don't personally have your weapon on you. When you're home, your weapon is normally not up under your pillow. It's not up under your mattress. It's usually locked away someplace. If it's locked away someplace, somebody breaks into your home, you can't tell the robber, hey, just stay right there in the living room. I got to go get my gun. That doesn't work, right? If somebody intimidates you on the street, especially if you're in a urban community, you're not walking around the streets in Chicago or Buffalo or Detroit, with the AR-15, strapped to your body and whatnot. These guns are like 3 feet long. You don't do that. You would be walking around, if anything, with a handgun. But most of the time, people are not they don't have a weapon on them when something like this occurs. Mm-hmm. So we're muscling people up with weaponry that is unlikely to be used in self-defense in the first place.
Right.
If the weapon's not going to be used for self-defense in the first place, why do we have these weapons? Mm-hmm. Now, I grant you, situations will occur where somebody may come at you and they have a weapon and you don't. But that doesn't mean that you should now have a weapon. because the likelihood is, even if you have the weapon, the person who comes at you is coming at you first. It's not like you were walking around the street with your weapon out, pointing it at people, saying, "I know one of you guys around here want to do something to me. I'm going to shoot you. As soon as I see you, as soon as you flinch, I'm shooting you. I'm standing my ground." You know, that's not the way the world works.
Right.
So if a person is coming to offend you, they're going to be acting first towards you. The likelihood that you're going to be able to go into wherever you've got your gun, get it out, unstrap it, unlock it, whatever you do, and then, you know, point it and shoot it. What's the other person doing? Just sitting there waiting on you to get all of that done? You know, that's not the way the world works. So it's important for us to understand that this assertion that people need these guns for self-defense, that these assertions are simply factually untrue. In fact, if a person uses their gun for self-defense, it more than likely means that the person who was offended, who was harmed by a gun, somebody in that person's family circle or friend circle goes to defend the person who had a homicide or an attempted homicide or assault attempted against them. They're actually going out in the street to go find that person and get revenge, you know, or accountability, you know, for whoever it was that committed the offense against a person in your family or in your friend circle. Well, that's vigilante type of violence. That's not going to work either. That's not good for our country either. So we've got to stop allowing people to structure in our minds a premise that is a false premise. You are not using those weapons for self-defense in most cases. In most cases, you are not even in a position to use your weapon in self-defense from a offense that's coming at you at a particular moment in time. If somebody's bothering you on the street, the likelihood is that they're going to use a gun. They're using the gun to bother you. They're not using the gun after, you know, they bothered you and you went and got your gun and then they go get their gun. They're using their gun from the get-go. So if guns are not going to be a vehicle to actually reduce the incidence of homicides, if they're not going to actually be the vehicle that successfully defends people from being assaulted by other people, then we should be talking about strategies to reduce guns, period, in our society. Not just strategies on how to train people better, on how to find better ways to anticipate when somebody's likely to try to do something bad to you, that you could do something bad to them first, you know, all this stand your ground type stuff. We need to rethink this, and we need to reacclimate our minds. When we were younger, the idea that you would shoot somebody was anathema. I mean, I remember, and I'm a bit older than most of you all. This was the corner of East Utica and Humboldt Parkway before the expressway was built. This would have been something like 1957, 58, something like that. There was a shooting that took place. And in our area in the Perry projects, it was like trauma, you know, went throughout the projects, because the person was from our area in Buffalo. The shooting took place in Cold Springs, but the person who got shot was from our area in the Perry projects. And it was just trauma. People didn't know what to do with themselves. I can't believe it. So-and-so was shot. You know, we didn't have that kind of stuff. It used to be anathema for people to use that kind of violence to resolve conflict in our community. This is a relatively recent phenomena, you know, a post-1970 phenomena that we see happening in our society right now. But it's happened so much that people anticipate, they expect that this is going to occur. And then, so then they start building policy around something that they expect is going to occur, rather than trying to help re-educate us, to reacclimate ourselves to a different frame of reference, that we don't see ourselves as people that have to be better, what do they call them, sharpshooters, or no, who are the guns that when they had the shootouts, you know, the guys that get the duelers, right? They're the better duelers. That doesn't make any sense for us to be building our society around that. The American society, according to Dr. Randy, is being torn apart by what she refers to as unrequited grief for more than 1 million Americans killed by COVID-19, 2 years of children's education and normative development lost due to the pandemic, and the deepening political divisions due to the manipulations by America's political factions. She treats gunshot wounds, and she also works to prevent gunshot wounds. She says that no single act, no single law, no single organization can or will turn the tide. It's the combination of these things that creates change. Just like with COVID-19, you had to have the combination of vaccines, tests, ventilation, masking, you know, staying away from each other, you know, distancing, you know, from each other. All those things work together to reduce the number of people that were being killed by COVID-19. In the same way, we have to do that to reduce the number of people that are being killed by gun violence in this society. Despite the so-called conservatives' largely successful efforts to stymie federal research, I don't know if you all know this, but the conservatives fought to make the CDC stop doing research on gun violence. That doesn't make any sense. But in spite of that, a growing body of peer-evaluated evidence on what makes a difference is emerging. Did I see a caller coming on? Let me grab that call real quick. We only got about 4 minutes. Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. I was calling to say that in many states now, you're allowed to open carry, and I'm from Ohio.
Yep.
You're allowed to open carry rifles and guns, and Ohio is not the only state that does that.
In fact, in Ohio, you can have them. You can sit on the altar in church, and have them out on the sides and spin them and whatnot during the course of the service.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah,
it's just insane. And that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, that is exactly the perspective that we got to get regenerated in our society. You know, it is insane that we have normalized people carrying guns in the open like we're. I think I told you about this once before, Willie, that a study that was done by Frederick Law Olmsted on the state of the territory of Missouri. I think it was in 1852. He was doing a survey of a social survey looking at the outcomes of people's lives, and he was looking at death rates. Mm-hmm. And what he found was that in the territory of Missouri, before it became a state, so this is like I said, 1852 or so, in that territory, the number one cause of death for any person at any age, 1 day old, 100 years old, no matter what age you were, the number one cause of death at any age in Missouri was murder. It seems to me that we have to ask ourselves better questions about who we think we are as a society.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not cancer, not heart disease, not old age, you know, not environmental toxins. It's people murdering each other. That's the number one cause of death, you know, in the territory of Missouri. And we're playing the same game right now. We're right back, you know, on the threshold. I think you had a caller hanging on over there. We're right back on the threshold of that same kind of mentality if we're not already completely in that threshold. We have that caller. Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Just want to put out the idea that the best weapon that we can use to combat somebody who is threatening us is our brain.
Yep.
We don't need a gun.
Yep.
You don't need a baseball bat. You don't need, you need to use your head. And part of it is you just have to get out of harm's way.
And I say this, I'm so glad you said it exactly those words. I say this to all of the people that live in the dense urban environments that are always talking about, well, that's what's around us all the time. My position is get out of the way. Don't be in the path of where these crimes are taking place. If you know that they commit crimes over in this area, go to another area. Don't go to that area, right?
Well, that's avoidance. We shouldn't have to do that, but you have to be smart. But I think when you do come upon a situation, you still have to seek a path. You don't confront. You don't.
Right.
You don't challenge.
Right. Use your noodle. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yep. I mean, and that's really the lesson for the day. We are an intelligent species of being. We have to prove that. We have to use our intelligence to spare ourselves from the consequences of committing murder and killing, whether it's defensive or offensive. We have to spare ourselves from having that happen in our lives. So listen, folks, we got a lot of stuff we got to talk about. This was a sort of a rapid, news day because what happened with the indictment with Donald Trump. But we'll get into more of this when we get back to you on Monday here at Living for the People at 91.3 FM WBNY. We will see you all then.